Hello, in today's foundation roundup, I have several new foundation releases to review and give you my thoughts on foundations of different types and at different price points. I'll be showing you what they look like on my skin and sharing what skin types I think would benefit the most from each. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. I test out a lot of concealers, primers, foundations, skin products here on my channel. I'm in my mid-40s, and as we age, it just gets harder and harder to find the right products. All right, let's go ahead and get into these foundations and see what I thought about them and see which ones might work for you. It's really important that you know my skin type and my climate because those things make a difference when we're talking about products that are supposed to wear on the skin all day. I'm 46 years old. I live in New Orleans where it is hot and humid most of the year, but even when it's not hot, it's still humid. I have combination skin that can get oily in the T-zone. I can get some shine breakthrough. The perimeter of my face though is pretty normal, but during the cold winter months, it can get a little bit dry and flaky. So it's always fun to try and find foundations that will wear well, apply well with those types of things going on. I always test foundations out for several days. I don't do first impressions. I test them without a primer, with various types of primers, as well as with different powders. I have links to the typical primers and powders that I usually use in my description box down below, along with everything that you're seeing in this video, as well as what I'm wearing. I'm going to start with the Chanel No. 1 De Chanel Revitalizing Foundation. I almost put this in my last foundation roundup, which wasn't that long ago. I'll have that in the description box for you as well. Also up in the top corner if you want to check this out after you finish this video. This is $70 for 1 ounce. There are 20 shades. I am in the shade B30, which is described as light medium with neutral golden undertones. I'm typically B30 in most Chanel foundations, and I've had great luck with Chanel foundations overall, so I was expecting a lot from this. It comes in this really nice compact glass pump bottle. This is supposed to be buildable with coverage and give a nice luminous finish. It's got red camellia oil, which is supposed to help with the skin's barrier function and allow it to feel really comfortable on the skin. It's also got moisturizing ingredients, and the formula is supposed to soften the skin and help prevent against environmental stressors. It's designed so that your complexion is supposed to appear plumper and healthier looking. It has kind of a medium consistency to it. It applies really easily. You can use any method and it applies beautifully. I prefer to use a damp sponge. This looks beautiful on my pores. I would say it gives a natural radiant finish before I set it with powder, and after I set it, it leaves my skin with a natural, healthy looking finish. It's not matte, it's not dewy, it's just healthy looking skin. I would say this is buildable from light medium to medium coverage, and it feels lightweight all day. You can see 3 hours in, my skin looks natural and healthy. It's not too radiant, it just looks natural. At the end of the day, I have a little bit more shine than I like, but it still doesn't look greasy. I wasn't sure what to expect from this. Sometimes light, medium to medium coverage foundations that give a radiance don't last in my T-zone. When that oil breaks through, they either look really greasy or they start to break down. This one lasts nicely through the day. I think this is a great foundation for any skin type. If you want some coverage, but you still want your skin to look like skin, you don't want to look like you're wearing foundation, I feel like that's what Chanel does really well. I've had great luck with all the foundations I've tried from them in terms of giving the type of coverage that I want, the type of finish that I want, and my skin still looks like skin. This foundation is no exception. So if you like light, medium to medium coverage foundations and you like a natural radiance that doesn't go greasy, for those of you with combination oily skin, this is perfect for that. You can always put on a mattifying primer underneath if you want it to be a little bit less radiant. I find I don't need to do that though, and I still like the finish, and I think it's absolutely perfect for those of you with normal to dry skin. This is a drugstore foundation I haven't heard anyone talk about. I'm sure someone has, I just haven't seen it. This is the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Perfector 4-in-1 Whipped Matte Makeup. It's $14.99 for 0.68 ounces, so you're not getting a full fluid ounce here. Just something to note. There are 6 self-adjusting shades. My shade is 02 Light Medium, but it is a little bit dark. So this claims to give you the look of primer, concealer, mattifying powder, and BB cream all in one. This has a very thick whipped consistency to it, which I typically don't have good luck with because usually products with that consistency pick up on any dryness on my face, even dryness I didn't even know I had. However, this blended in really nicely. I wasn't expecting that. This blurs my pores nicely and leaves a soft matte finish. I would say the coverage is light, but because it blurs, it makes it seem like it has a little bit more coverage than it does. It also feels lightweight. So I would say that I can get about 4 to 5 hours of really nice wear out of this, depending on what the weather's doing, how humid it is. If it's really humid, I would say maybe 3.5 to 4. If it's not humid outside, which is rare here, I can get closer to 5 before it starts to completely break down. In this clip, you can clearly see, I think you can see a line of demarcation where my under eye concealer that I was testing that day. By the way, I will have an under eye concealer roundup coming out very shortly. So if you're subscribed, stay tuned. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. There have been quite a few new concealers come out lately, a couple of correctors, and I will be reviewing them and showing you what they look like on me very shortly. So basically all that's left on my face is the concealer. This is completely worn away. In the beginning, I told you I test all of these products out with primer, without primer, with different powders. It didn't matter if I wore a primer or didn't wear a primer, it did the same thing. I always set my foundation with powder because it will wear away otherwise and I'll get shine breakthrough. It's just the way my skin is. You may be different. Powder and primer just did not help me with this. Now, I always try to tell you what skin types would benefit from the foundations that I'm reviewing. So for this one, I would say if you have normal to oily skin and you want a foundation or a tint that's going to give you just light skin evening coverage that you only need to wear for a few hours, I think this looks really nice. I'm not so sure about really dry skin because of the texture. I just may not have had any little dry flaky areas that day. It didn't pick up on them, but because it leaves more of a matte finish, I just think that there are other products out there that dry skin people would prefer. For me, this started out pretty promising, but fell apart a few hours in. BareMinerals reformulated their Barepro powder foundation, and a lot of you have been asking me to test this out. I have a pretty extensive powder foundation testing video. It's a couple of years old. I'm actually going to be doing an updated top powder foundations video here very shortly. I've been working on it, so stay tuned for that. So this is the newly reformulated BareMinerals Barepro 16-hour skin perfecting powder foundation. It is $35 for 0.2 ounces. Keep in mind the ounces are going to be vastly different from liquid foundations because it is a powder. There are 35 shades. My shade is light 25 warm. So this new formulation is talc free, and I don't believe it was before, and it's supposed to help your skin improve over time. It's also supposed to control oil and shine for 24 hours. It's supposed to be sweat and humidity resistant and be transfer proof and be good for sensitive skin. It's also cruelty free and vegan. So the first thing I noticed when I dipped my brush in this is that it's more powdery than the other formula was. I got some kick up, which isn't a deal breaker. I can just tap my brush off before I apply it to my face. However, it applied very quickly and very easily the way powder foundation does. You can use a brush or a sponge with this. I dusted it on with a brush and got some really nice coverage. I always like to go in with a sponge after I use a brush when I use powder foundation because it helps it adhere to the skin even longer, and you can get a little bit more coverage where you need it. You can use this wet or dry, so you can do that with a damp or a dry sponge. I was surprised at the finish of this. I think it gives a soft matte finish that doesn't look powdery. Despite that powder kick up situation in the beginning, it gives medium full to full coverage. This really has some nice coverage. It feels lightweight, it's flattering on the skin. You can see here 3.5 hours in, it's still melded in with my skin. It looks really nice. Now at the end of the day, this is roughly 9 hours. I have some more shine, but my makeup is fully intact. Now I will say I do have to blot with this a couple of times during the day. It doesn't keep me shine free in my T-zone the way it claims it will. That happens whether or not I wear a primer underneath it, even if I wear a mattifying primer. I do think this is a powder foundation that any skin type could wear. I think dry skin would probably find it flattering since it doesn't look like powder and you can apply it either with a brush or with a sponge. And it's going to depend for you oily combination skin people whether or not you mind touching up during the day. But I mean, my makeup stayed intact. So that's just going to kind of be a personal call. Is this my favorite powder foundation in the world? No, but I did like it. I don't think I like it as much as the old formulation though. Go figure. I really did like that one a lot. And this one I would say falls somewhere in the middle for me with powder foundations. Dior revamped both of their Forever foundations to be clean. However you feel about that, there are new formulations, so I tested both of them out. This in the frosted bottle is Forever Matte, and in the shiny bottle is Forever Glow. They're both in these really nice glass pump bottles. They both retail for $52 for 1 ounce. There are 42 shades in each. My shade in each should be 2.5 in, which is what I have in the Forever Matte. Somehow I ended up with 3 in the Forever Glow. I don't know how that happened. You'll see here in a minute I made it work, but 3 in is too dark. So the claims on both of these are pretty much the same. They're supposed to give 24-hour transfer proof wear. They both have skincare ingredients that are supposed to be good for your skin. This one's supposed to be matte, this one's supposed to be radiant. So let's talk about Dior Forever Skin Glow first. The consistency is pretty runny. It applies very, very quickly. I prefer to apply it with a damp sponge the way I do most of my medium full coverage foundations. This isn't super pore blurring. It makes them look pretty natural but better, but doesn't completely airbrush them. It gives medium coverage and feels very lightweight. I think it looks very pretty on the skin. It's a radiant foundation. It's a little bit more radiant than what I prefer in a foundation. I do have to touch up with this quite a bit during the day. So for me, with my combination oily skin, this is not ideal. It wears well throughout the day. It does last. I like that there are 2 formulations, kind of like Maybelline Fit Me foundation. They have the matte and poreless and the dewy and smooth. That's the one that I recommend for normal to dry skin, just like the Dior Forever Skin Glow. I think if you want a foundation that is going to give you a natural skin look where, you know, you can still see your pores. We have pores, but it smooths them just a little bit. It gives you a really pretty, naturally radiant look with medium coverage that you can wear during the day. It's going to last you a decent amount of time. I think you would like this formula, which leads me to the Forever Matte. Just like Forever Skin Glow, this has a runny consistency. It applies quickly and easily. I like applying it with the damp sponge. Also, like Forever Skin Glow, this looks decent with pores, but it doesn't camouflage them completely. It has natural looking medium coverage. This is not a long wearing foundation that's going to give you medium to medium full coverage. It's a great daytime foundation, just like the Forever Skin Glow is, but with a natural matte finish. It feels lightweight and extremely comfortable on your skin. This is long wearing, but I can get some shine in my T-zone. I get less shine when I wear a primer, but I tend to like the finish a little bit less when I wear a primer. So it's kind of a trade-off. If you have normal to oily skin and you like this type of foundation for every day, you need something for long days and you don't mind touching up if you get shiny in your T-zone, I think you would really enjoy this. In the past, I said that the old formulation of this was very similar to Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless. I don't feel like this one is as similar because I do get shinier in my T-zone with it than I did the old formulation, but I don't hate it. It just requires a little bit more maintenance, but it still looks really pretty on the skin. So I would say it's probably the ideal foundation if you have normal skin, even combination skin, and you may just want to wear a primer if you have oily skin. It's really pretty though. I'm not exactly sure how new this release is from Flower Beauty. This is their Get Real Serum Foundation. I know a lot of people are just like me. You love Flower Beauty. It's one of my favorite drugstore brands. I just typically have a lot of luck with their products. It said it was new on a couple of websites, but I just haven't heard a lot about it. I have shaken this bottle up extensively and there's still some of the, I guess that's serum around the outside of the bottle, that yellow marbly effect. It's mixed up on the inside though. So this is $14.99 for 1 ounce. There are 18 shades that are suited to match a variety of skin tones. My shade is warm beige. This is supposed to be hydrating, light as air. It's not supposed to settle in fine lines. I love it when a foundation claims that. It's infused with a hydrating antioxidant serum and all kinds of good ingredients that are supposed to nourish your skin and brighten, refresh, and bring a glow to the skin. It's also got something in here that's anti-inflammatory, which is really nice. This has a very thin consistency, so it's easy to apply apply using any method you want. And on me, this is dewy before I set it. On my pores, it looks okay. I don't think it airbrushes them. It just kind of makes them look a little bit better than they do naturally. I would say the coverage is sheer light to just under medium. This feels lightweight until later in the day. I can start to feel it on my face as the day goes on, probably when my natural oils start to mix in with some of the serum ingredients. I tend to have that happen sometimes with serum foundations. I do get shiny with this. I have to blot no matter if I wear a primer or if I don't. It's also not very long wearing. I get 5, maybe 6 hours max, and then my makeup starts to fade. It kind of reminds me of the Ilia serum. This worked for me better than that did, but there was something that just kind of reminded me of it. But that is a serum that just didn't work for me. I guess my skin type just didn't mesh well with it. So if you like that, you might really like this. This might be a more affordable option for you. I think this would be great for normal to dry skin because I really liked the natural skin-like finish until it started to wear away. If you have combination oily skin, not so sure you're going to get along with this. I never know what to expect with serum foundations, and this one just didn't work out for me. I have another new powder foundation, this time from the drugstore. This is the new e.l.f. Camo powder foundation. A lot of people have been talking about this. The reviews are kind of mixed though. This retails for $11 for 0.2 ounces. There are 12 shades. My shade is light 240W. When I opened it, I thought it was really yellow. I made it work, but note that the warm shades are pretty yellow. This is a primer infused buildable powder foundation that's supposed to give an airbrushed finish and be long wearing and be good for sensitive skin. Just like the BareMinerals that I talked about earlier, this has a powdery, dusty formula, but it's easy to apply with a brush if you want less coverage or with a sponge if you want more. So it is definitely buildable. Now they claim it gives a semi-matte finish. I would agree with that. And I do think it gives medium to full coverage as they claim. Now they also say it's supposed to look really natural. I don't necessarily agree with that. I find that in order to get a smooth airbrush looking finish, I need to use a primer underneath it. Without a primer, for some reason, it tends to pool in my pores and give me polka dot pores, and it won't adhere to certain parts of my face. It also will catch on other makeup I have underneath it, like my concealer. I don't know what's happening. I haven't really had another powder foundation do that. However, unless I'm in a huge hurry, I do usually wear primer underneath my powder foundations because I am just someone who needs that in my T-zone or they wear away too quickly. So when I do that, when I wear a primer underneath, I do think it gives a really polished look. I don't think it looks natural, like, you know, it's not makeup or anything. I think you obviously can tell you're wearing makeup, but it doesn't look makeup-y or powdery. It does feel lightweight and it wears for a long time when I wear a primer underneath it. So knowing those things, I would say if you're someone who's going to wear a primer underneath this, you'll probably love it. Now, I personally did not like it at all without a primer underneath. It just did not work. No matter how many times I tried it, I could not get it to work without a primer underneath. Who do I think this will work best for? I think probably normal to oily skin. If you have dry skin, I just don't think this is going to be a powder foundation that really works for you. It just doesn't have that creamy formula that I typically recommend for those with dry skin. So this powder foundation formula is just a little bit more finicky than what I typically enjoy. I would love to know your thoughts on it if you've tried it. Now it's time for Makeup Forever HD Skin Undetectable Long Wear Foundation. Is this the third time they've revamped, reformulated this foundation? If anybody knows, tell me down below. I almost didn't pick this up to try it because the other two formulations were just okay for me. But I feel like I've been seeing this everywhere. You've been asking me about it, so it ended up in my Sephora basket, and here we are. This is $43 for 1.01 ounce. There are 40 shades. I am in shade 2N22. There is something really aesthetic about their new packaging. I do really like it. This has a moderately thick consistency that applies really nicely, easily, quickly with any method. I'm using a damp sponge here. I noticed as I was applying this how it seems to just fuse with my skin. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the way Lisa Eldridge's foundation does that. I find it gives me a natural matte finish. My redness is being covered, my pores are looking airbrushed, everything's just evening out nicely, and my skin just looks natural. I think they say this gives medium to full coverage. Now, I do disagree with that a little bit. I think this gives medium to just under medium full coverage. Now, for filming, it's usually a little bit better to have a medium full to full coverage foundation on. It just looks better on camera. This is what I have on today, and you can still see this little sunspot over here, and I have this little bump underneath this eye. I don't know what that is, but really all you're seeing is the shadow from it. I feel like it kind of blurs while it's covering. I don't have any additional concealer on with this foundation aside from what's underneath my eyes. I don't know how you're viewing this on camera, but in person it just looks really pretty and natural and skin-like, while providing nice coverage. Now, it's supposed to feel really lightweight and hydrate, and because of that hydration claim, I kind of thought I would have to blot several times throughout the day. I love the finish when I don't wear a primer the most. Now, when I don't wear a primer, I do have to blot a couple of times during the day, but it doesn't bother me because my makeup just looks fresh all day long. If I wear a mattifying primer underneath, I really only have to blot like once. Because I live in an area where you can sweat walking to and from your car the majority of the year, I'm really interested in the sweat-proof claim, but because of how it wears for me during the day, I feel like that is going to ring true. I see that they claim that this works best for normal to oily skin. I didn't have any issues on the drier parts of my face, so I would venture to say that any skin type could wear this. If you have dry skin and you've tried it, let me know down below, but I really think this is probably my hero foundation of this foundation roundup, especially since it's a foundation I wasn't even going to try. I'm really glad I did. I've been loving it. I've actually been wearing it a lot more than I thought I would. Let me know if you've tried it or any of these foundations in the comments down below. Also, let me know if there are other foundations you want me to put in my next foundation roundup, whether they're old or new. I don't reserve these just for new releases. Sometimes I review foundations I've just never tried before. If you want to see what foundations I love the most, I'll have my top foundations playlist here, as well as my foundation roundup playlist, so you can check those videos out. I hope you enjoyed this and found it helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.